everyone, I'm Charlie Dawn and welcome to my library. Today I'm going to be talking about the Hunger Games quad. What's it called when there's 4 in a book? It's not a trilogy, there's more than 3. A quad? Quadron? The Hunger Games trilogy and then the prequel has just come out. I did have the first book, but I lent it to someone in like 2012 and then they never gave it back, and now I've forgotten who it was in the first place. So if you're watching and it was you, let me know. I read these back in when they came out, whenever that was, a long time ago. And then when the Songbirds of Ballads and... Do you know, that title is a bit too long for me. Ballads of Snakes and... There were lots of great things about this prequel. When I heard that it was about President Snow, I was a bit like, ugh. I don't normally like a villain backstory. I don't want to know why they're horrible people. I don't care. I just think you're the villain. I'm meant to dislike you. I don't want to suddenly feel sorry for you because, you know, your rabbit died when you were 10. But thankfully, it wasn't like that, and I was very satisfied. And that satisfied is a good word for this book. I was satisfied with the book. I didn't love it. I didn't think it was bad. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, but I'm considering changing that because I've not thought about it much since reading it, and that's kind of how I gauge if it was a good book. Like if 2 weeks later I'm still going, I can't believe she was dead all along, then that's a good book. But if I can't remember like some of the book, then maybe I didn't like it so much after all. I listened to it on Audible, which I very much recommend. The narrator was very good. The first thing I liked about the Songbird of the prequel was that Coriolanus isn't nice. From the off, he's just a lot selfish. He's nice to people, but there's always like a reason why he's being nice to them that will help him rather than just being nice. I liked that because I thought, I don't want to feel sorry for you. I want you to just show me why you turned out to be the way you did and get on with things. And they did. And this is a spoilery review, by the way, because it is. So Coriolanus Snow, his family he lives with, and forgive me because the narrator was American, so I don't know how we would pronounce this in England, the Grand Ma'am. And he lived with his cousin Tigress. More on her later because something about her has blown my mind. So he lives with those, his cousin and his grandmam, and they're very poor, but it seems like she has dementia, the grandmam, and she doesn't remember that they're poor, and she just sings the national anthem every day, Gem of Panem. That's all I remember of the anthem. And they're like wickedly poor because of the war, and their mum and dad died, and Tigress's parents died as well, so they're both orphans and they live together. And Tigress does she does a lot for Coriolanus. Like she bleached his shirt in, was it like potatoes? If you remember, let me know because I can't. She did something with a potato in his shirt, like starched it. That sounds about right. Don't know if it was. And they had a good relationship, but I feel like it was more one-sided. Tigress looked out for him. Did he look out for her? No. Who was he looking out for? Coriolanus. I thought that a lot of the characters were sort of plot points. They weren't just like, they're people in their own right. They were there to serve a purpose, to show you that Coriolanus is actually a bad person. So the number one, Sejanus. He is District 2 originally, but lives in the capital, but he never really was capital. And that really irked our Coriolanus because he just thinks that capital is the best and the districts are all just like raging animals, and that's why they have to kill them in the Hunger Games. And from the off, he thinks this because, I guess because his dad was killed by them. Was he? Yeah, no. Killed by the rebels. Yes. He has this hatred towards them. But Sejanus stood for everything that Coriolanus didn't. I also just find it quite difficult that Sejanus and Coriolanus, like, did they have to rhyme? There's a million made up names you could have picked, Suzanne. Then you've got Lucy Gray. Lucy Gray was a very different character to what we've seen in like The Hunger Games, Catching Fire or anything like that. I liked her, but I didn't think it was plausible that she would actually fall in love with Coriolanus. I can understand why he fell in love with her because it was like she's a caged animal that he could control and he just mistook that for love. But why did she like him? Was he just like really good looking? I think he wasn't. I'm pretty sure they said he wasn't that good looking. I don't remember. Or was he? Ah, this is what I mean. I only read this book last week and it's already gone out of my head. Lucy Gray, she's a good gal. She's wearing a rainbow dress. She's got little reptile friends and she sings. And it's when she sings that he's like, oh, she's singing about someone else and it's not about me. You've just met. You just met. She's not, the song's not going to be about you, is it? It's when he's jealous of her when she's doing the interview, and I thought, if you look at how many times he says, like, she belongs to me, or my Lucy Gray, she's mine, how he talks about her is always in relation to himself. It's never just her as a person, like, I love her because, or it's she's mine, like, I saved her life. Did you? He gave her a couple of sandwiches and some rat poison. I thought that the book, it had my attention up until they went into the Hunger Games. Unnecessary. They had my attention up until then, and then when they kind of went into detail of, you know, this guy climbed this rope and this girl belted herself up to the pole, and I just thought, I don't really care about this because I don't know anything about these district characters. So I didn't have any attachment, so when they were like killing each other I thought, well, that's sad, but who are they? The whole games part of it was quite boring for me. Plus, you know that Lucy Gray's not going to die because that's the whole story. If she's not in it, then there was a point where I thought maybe she does die and that's why he turns on the districts. But then I thought, surely he'd turn on the capital. But he's never going to do that. He's capital through and through. I feel like this review is like, I should have written notes.
Maybe I should have written notes, actually.
I thought it was really good that Coriolanus, from the beginning to the middle to the end, he didn't change. There was slight points where he had the opportunity to go, oh, maybe the capital isn't always right. Maybe my friends who have lived through all of this and they're telling me all this stuff, maybe they're right. But he didn't. He was like, nah, I'm just gonna kill these birds. What was the problem with the birds? I know it was a metaphor, but I kind of didn't get what for. It was almost so out of the blue. It was just like, oh, hey friend, peacekeeper friend, what are these birds that keep singing back what we're saying? Oh, they're just, and do you know what? I've forgotten the name. This is terrible. Jabberjay, Mockingjay, Jabberbird, Jabbered, Mockingjay. Those ones that sing back to you. Didn't need to do that. And so they say, oh yeah, but those are just the local birds. The capital tried to use them against us and then they're just kind of maced with the locals and they're still here. And he goes, oh right, okay, well, kill them. Perché? No, not so perché. Just his hatred for the districts, even when he's a peacekeeper and he kind of gets to know them and he's like, oh, these people are just like really suffering like I was. And they're just trying to get the best out of life. They're just, you know, they want to just like get drunk and, you know, drown their sorrows and just listen to a bit of music from the Covey. And then when the Covey, I think it was the little girl singing the song, and you've guessed it, I've forgotten her name. She's singing this song and everyone's like, oh yeah, this is a great song. And he's like, well, this makes zero sense. What's the point in this song? There's no point. I don't like this story. He doesn't understand the point of music. What a lonely life. The whole time when he's kind of going against capital in these tiny little ways, like giving her food and having this sort of relationship with Lucy Gray, all those little things, I just felt reading it like, How was this never brought up in the Hunger Games? Obviously, it hadn't been written yet, I know that. But if it was meant to be like cohesive, surely people would be like, oh, you know, Snow, he had this relationship with a district girl. That'd surely be brought up. And then it is rectified, kind of, at the end where they say that there's no record of the 10th Hunger Games, like they just got rid of all the DVDs, or whatever it was, Hydro DVDs. But I just still think that having a District 12 girlfriend might have just carried around, you know, people might have known about that throughout the years. And then it got me thinking, hang on, how old is President Snow in the Hunger Games? He's like 18 in the 10th Hunger Games. And it's the 75th Hunger Games in the trilogy. And so then I thought, that's maths. And I couldn't work it out without a calculator. He's old. So maybe that's why they're not remembering, because it's bloody been centuries. I did like the book, I'll just say. I liked the book. Kept me entertained. But the last, I don't know, because I've read it on Audible, but like 10 pages I guess it would have been. What happened there? So he finds out that him and Lucy Gray are going to run off to the woods, and he's like, right, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to run away because I've basically killed Sejanus and my fingerprints are on a gun somewhere in the world. Then they're in the woods and he's like, ooh, worms. Fair enough, I'd feel the same. But as soon as he finds those weapons and he's like, oh, I can just get rid of these weapons and I can just nip back to the peacekeepers, and she's trying to kill me. She's a murderer. Her ex-boyfriend was right about her. I'm like, Choreo, slow down. She's like, oh, I'm just going to nip out and get some potatoes for us so we don't have to eat worms. I'll go alone because you're no use nor ornament. And all of a sudden, she's out to get him. Choreo, I just don't think that's the case. I think she's just out getting potatoes, love. It's the switch. And then it was quite funny because the narrator on Audible was going,
Lucy Gray, Lucy Gray.
and I was like, while I listen to audiobooks, I tend to play Sudoku on my phone, and I've got really good at it. And I was that perplexed. I turned off the game and I was like, rewind 20 seconds. What's this about? He's got like a rifle. Why? And he's running after Lucy Gray with this rifle, and then he sees like her orange, whatever it was, bandana, I think, scarf thing, and he's like, oh, there she is, I'm gonna get her. Reaches out for it, and a snake bites him, and he's like, she trained the snake. She trained the snake to bite me. Did she? Or did you just put your hand into a bush in the woods? We never hear from her again. I hope she's alright. I've heard rumours that she's Katniss's like grandma. I feel like that's a reach because, I mean, yeah, she could be theoretically, but so could like Maud Ivory. Was that her name? Maybe that's her grandma. The ending. It's like he just flipped, and then he's like, do you know what? I'm just going to go back to the capital, pretend that Sejanus' rich dad is my dad, and just take over. That's that. And then, Tigress. So I was thinking, well, what the heck happened to Tigress? I quite liked Tigress, thought she was a bit unusual. She was a budding, what do you call those clothes designers? Tailors? Fashion designer? One of them. And then we just, you know, don't hear of her. What happened? And then, who else but Tigress would turn up in the Mockingjay? Oh, I've just got lipstick all over the pages. For goodness sake. I'm sorry. Give me a minute. Hang on, have I got it all? No, I'm fine. Hair's a bit flat though. Anyway, Tigress, as an old woman, is like a weird capital woman who looks like a tiger. And she owns a little clothing shop, and she's like, oh, I couldn't believe it. Oh my God, blew my mind. I was reading it and I thought, I know that name. And they were like, oh, in the clothes shop, and I thought, I know that woman. Oh, Tigress. What? He stooped so low that his own cousin ended up like that. Makes you hate him even more. I'm glad that I didn't leave the book thinking, oh, poor him. Oh, he had such a hard life. No wonder he... No, I don't like it when authors give you someone to hate and then they go, hold up. Turn this boat around. We're going to like him now. I'm not on board with it. On board the boat with it. So I did give it a 4 stars, but I am going to lower it to a 3.5 stars. The 0.5 is just for the fact that it made me reread The Hunger Games and Catching Fire and Mockingjay. These books are like 400 and like 300 pages. The Ballad of bloody Mockingbirds and Fiery Snakes was a lot longer, and it didn't need to be. They could have cut out the whole section about the Hunger Games. I don't know how they would have done that, really. He could have just been like, she won! I'd have been a bit happy with that. But like, yeah, obviously. That's how the book's supposed to go. The Hunger Games trilogy on its own. Oh, did you hear that smash? Careful. I think to this day it's still the best dystopian trilogy series I've ever read. It was the first dystopian I'd ever read, and I spent a long time after that trying to find more dystopian books because I thought, oh my god, this is my genre. And it turns out it actually isn't. I just really like these books. I'd reread them again next week, but I've got other books to read. Speaking of, I'm gonna do a video next week probably of like a reading wrap up, like what I read recently. I'm just trying to think if there was any other characters that, oh, who was that Dr. Gall? Hippity hap. Just a weirdo. I just thought, ooh. And the narrator's voice when he was doing that character was very creepy. Didn't like to read that at night. It was a bit freaky. I liked the book. I thought the pacing was a bit off. It was either too fast or too slow. I thought the ending was crazy. I thought him just flipping and turning on Lucy Gray and all of a sudden thinking that she's gonna kill him when she's looking for potatoes was a bit far-fetched. I liked the premise. I liked the world of Panem and seeing it from a different point of view, seeing it from like where it's trying to build up. I just love the Hunger Games. So all in all, a 3.5, but of course the rest of the trilogy, it's a solid 5. Let me know what you thought about the book in the comments, or if you want to read it. Oh, actually, if you want to read it, this is a spoilery video. I hope I said that at the beginning. It was very interesting, I'll say that. So thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next time in my library. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Maybe I should start again. No, I won't start again.